I will start with the first one that I'm going to ask. The first is about character. The second is about pedagogy. And the third is about entrepreneurship. So they will share practical things being done in their institutions on this. So I will go one by one. Everyone has 5 minutes for each question. So I will start with the first one. So this means their presentation will take 45 minutes. And then the rest will be a question from you. Okay, that's how we are going to go. So I will start with the first one. I think Lydia today, I love her question. I think many people was nodding also in their head about trust. And also our collaboration is about character building, ethical leadership. So it's very important now to know from your perspective how that is being done in the different institutions that you are representing today. Particularly, there has been even an argument made from the earlier panelist that this kind of trust or discipline, could it be even taught? There was even a question. And some of the institutions are saying, actually, you can make simple rules and agree with the student, and then the student can take ownership and implement, and then character can be built. Some say, okay, you have sets of rules, enforce them, and then that enforcement creates a character. So now, from your perspective, even like seeing yourself, how your character has changed, depending on how many years you have been spending in Cavendish, Collins, I want you to share with us a practical thing that happened to you, to your colleagues, that will be helpful to others in character building. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Professor Bailey. Good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes to character, ethics, and trust, I'd speak mostly for character in this case because I'd say that's where I've had the biggest experience with my university. Honestly speaking, I haven't had as much interaction around ethics and trust, but when it comes to character building, I feel like that's something that the university has done amazingly well. And you see this through their trust and investment in activities that go outside of class, because I believe that's where you build the most character. When you come to class, it's about studying, it's about learning, it's about education. But when you go to the real world, your interaction with people, and we've seen this through their investment in the debate club. We have a very vibrant debate club at school, and I happen to also be one of the participants through that debate club. And whenever we approach the university about such activities, they are welcomed with enthusiasm. They're like, okay, how can we help you? How can we get you here? And that's one of the areas where you find that through debate, you're able to interact, speak better. I'm able to speak here without shivering because I've been through debate, right? And that's one of the characters. I'm able to express myself because I've been through that. But we also recently had a communication actually go out to formalize a lot of these activities. Because while as they've been happening without any very formal way of it going on. There was no institutionalized president for all the clubs. So you wake up one day, create a club. But now the university is taking an active role in knowing what clubs are there, what can we do to actually help those clubs grow, and how are they helping individuals. And we've now seen other clubs come in through journalism, we've seen other clubs come in through moods, we've seen a bunch of these activities. And personally, I feel that's where most character is built, because when we go out to represent the institution, that's when you get to see who Cavendish is, what a student from Cavendish is like, through these representations. And the school investing so much in putting the best foot forward through setting up other activities for us to develop beyond just the curriculum is where I feel the most character building has happened.
So much, Pacific. Before I move on, the question that asked, first of all, let me share with you my experience. I'm from DR Congo. I'm attending higher education from Kepler, from Kiziba campus. So when it comes to character that we gained from university, for me, just it started from the background of my family. So my family came here in Rwanda in 196, and we spent almost 20 years and above in refugee camp. So we hadn't a chance for like attending her education. So Kepler came in Kiziba camp as like a redeemer to us as a youth from refugee. So there, it's where I started seeing how like universities are really contributing for us as a refugee youth to get a chance to to get a chance for getting the skills that are needed at the labor market. In the past, we hadn't any ideas about the contribution of universities, as I said, but after Kempla came in Kiziba refugee camp, we started seeing the contribution of universities. Our youth, we weren't able to get jobs because we hadn't skills. But now, Kepler is helping us to get communication skills. It's helping us to get technology skills. So from that trace, again, they are having communication skills, technology skills. I get chance to serve the new students who are being admitted at Kepler technology skills. So we had the competitions. After we end a module cycle, we had a competition of tech, so where students are implementing the skills that they are learning to get visible things that are going to give them financially, like financial means. As a youth from Kiziber and other youth, I think from universities where we get what we can serve the fellow students who are coming workers. So when we are implementing the skills we use in the tech class, tech competitions, so where we get, if we land in PowerPoint, so we need just Microsoft Word, we need to bring agenda, you see? If we made a competition and we made agenda from the skills that we gain from Microsoft Word, just both of you, all of you, you have agenda and you pay for it. So you see, for us as youth, just Kepler is training us to put the skills that we learn into practices. If we are just learning, we used to work on projects, so when we are working on this project, we had advisors who are teaching us how the skills that you're getting in the projects are going to help you, to be competitive at labor market. So, in that way, it's where we get a trait of showing up what we do, what we can do. So I had working on a project which is called the Innovative Solution, just where they were just asking us, what's the current solution that we are meeting? So for me, I chose to work on plastic waste. So you see, plastic waste is really impacting our environment, and my interest is for environmental protection. So I chose that topic because most of students, we are learning, but to implement the skills that we learned, it's really difficult. We might just learn and ask, they ask you, what did you learn? And you say, oh, I learned communication skills, I learned technology skills, I learned critical thinking skills. But how? How can we trust that you have critical thinking skills? But if I come with the idea by saying, oh, we are currently facing plastic waste. So you see here with both water, yes, you see, are contained in plastic bottles. So, and maybe they paid, yes? So how can we use critical thinking skills that we learned to make this plastic bottle to be transformed into another thing that will benefit us as a student, as the youth, to create our own jobs? So you see, we are getting their traits to be innovative. So I think all of universities might help students to be creative and to be innovative. Just not only for going there in interviews and they say, oh, from Kepler or from Cavendish, yes, we do provide these skills, communication, every skills, and they list them. But how? For us, and from my background, as I said, by saying that I'm from DR Congo, it was just the chance for me to attend higher education. And I'm starting to realizing that higher education or attending universities, it's like a redeemer to students to get in and just in the zone of opportunities. So just the traits we get from I get, or as students, we get from our universities are coming from discipline and being trained to implement what we learned. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Ted Thoya Iha from Strathmore University. I am the recently elected president of the Student Council, so I'm speaking on behalf of 6,500 people when I speak up here. But I tend to think that I made the right decision, even though it was an impulse decision. Strathmore has been a very interesting experience for us. And my journey to becoming president was a very interesting experience. It was a true change of character. And you can see it through everything and how I carry myself. I normally tell people that there was a first-year version of myself called Teddy. So as he calls me Teddy, Teddy was what I call my first-year version. Very playful person. This is someone who picked their degree on the day of submitting their form, not because he knew what he wanted to do, but because he had to fill the form. And then came Ted, now the more serious version. So Ted has undergone various transformation, and it's a result of Strathmore University. So what does Strathmore do, and how has it helped me change my character and impacted me and many others in terms of what we can and can't do, and how have we improved our character? First things first, for people who don't know, Strathmore University is a very interesting school. The moment you get in, you're given a mentor. So you literally have someone to walk you through the journey of Strathmore University. My mentor is my closest companion. He normally helps me with advice. So each student is assigned a mentor, a personal mentor. So this is the school faculty mentor. Strathmore has gone a step ahead to give you now an industry mentor. So what you do is you get Ted, who's doing communication and journalism, being mentored by, let's say, Jolene, who is a communications person, or Frederick, who's the corporate communication lead at Education Collaborative, so that you now understand what it does. Now, as much as it looks like more of guidance, it helps build your character because you're able to learn from in inductive sort of way, because you're not learning from scratch. Normally, they say deductive learning is where you move from known to unknown. Now at least you're moving from unknown to known, but it's through guidance. You know, you only get to learn this thing through guidance. Then also in terms of character building, we have a lot of clubs. So Strathmore has over 31 clubs and societies. I personally am the director of the Debate Society, the Debate Club, which is hosting the biggest continental tournament this year. So I'll be seeing Collins in Nairobi in December, where I hope to beat him in the debate tournament. I am also someone who's running the First Aid Club, so I run Red Cross and St. John. Now, the clubs seem like, a fun activity, but the truth of the matter is it gives you managerial skills. So you learn how to manage things. So it builds your character because you all have to do corporate social responsibility, not only at a club level, but at the individual level. So in our first year after completion, you all have to go do community service, which is a good thing because you get to interact and see what other people lack, and what you have, you appreciate. And I think that's fundamentally important because even looking at the continent at large, there are people who are more blessed than others. So I tend to think that just because you attend a private university doesn't mean you should live your life through the scope of a private university eye. And I think that's an important thing. We also do a lot of CSR activities through bursaries. So as president, I must raise money for a bursary fund. This has helped me build character, literally, because I have to look for the money one way or another. Even for all our clubs, we look for the funding ourselves. So Professor Gakeru from Riara, I know that because I'm in touch with your former president, Shabat, and your current president, Alakir. So they are actually some of the people who helped me source for these fundings. What that does is it helps you appreciate so much what extent you're willing to go to build your skills and character. Because negotiation is something that every student must learn, not because you're looking for funding, but because it helps you get around life. Also, secondly, the other important thing that I think I need to mention is that for Strathmore University, upon graduation, they still keep in touch. So they always find out. We have a whole alumni office. So your character is built during the learning process and even after the learning process, to the extent where they always call back the alumni. I've met quite a number of them here. Mr. John Matogo from IBM is actually a former student of Strathmore University. So it's a very interesting and eye-opening experience. So they build your character through the learning process of school. They build your character through the outside of class process through mentorship. Then they also build it through your after-school life, through ensuring that they keep tabs on you using the alumni relations office. And I think that's how Strathmore has helped impact my life. So I moved from the joker because people would always be attending 10 clubs a week. Fun fact, when I applied in my first year, I registered for 3 clubs. I got into none. It was like winning the lotto, but for losses. And it was the best experience ever because it challenges me and drives me. So majority of Strathmore students, yes, are on private sponsorship, but we also have those who are on financial aid. So we offer a lot of scholarships as well. So these are things that help us appreciate, because in our day-to-day interact with very many different people. And I think that's how Strathmore has helped shape my character.
Much, all of you. I think that the takeaway from character building is like debating clubs, learn by doing, going to the community, getting some project and learn from that character building, and also really getting a lot of a mentor, dedicated mentor, call it advisor in our institution. So yeah, these are the ideas, but keep in mind your question to ask them. So now, one of the things like in my life, like I am very happy to do, and I am doing it also here, is to go to the class and see how students are learning. So now we're going to come to that part. So one of the things that like students ask is that when you go to a class and attend like an hour or 50 minutes of learning, or some people call it teaching, and then when you come out, do you come out with something that you feel this is useful? I am different in my thinking, or maybe in my ability to do something. I acquired this. So what are the pedagogy that you went through, the learning experience? We call it educational experience at Cavendish. That you feel transformed. You are a new person in your way of thinking, in your approach, or in the way you do things. So, Colleen, so how are you?
One, I must say, Cavendish University has one motto, which is student-centric. And it's the only university in Uganda you'll find that has that, trust me. So they take it a notch further. My first day in university, we had this orientation, wonderful orientation. A week before that, we had this pre-orientation, which was sort of a career-guided way of getting you to know you're getting into university. You have all these companies that came through, you have all these individuals that come. But when we get to the class, now, the thing I love about being in Cavendish is, one, the classes are very intimate, so to say, right? So we have a specific number of students matched to a specific number of lecturers. And I believe that's very important because you want to have an intimate learning relationship with your lecturer, right? You want them to know your name, for starters. Like, if they don't know your name, then you maybe feel some type of way. But it also means that because we're all different students, we have different learning capacities. So if the lecturers have intimate relationships of learning with their students, then it gives a certain deeper context to this whole learning experience. For example, I'll come in the class, and one of my former favorite lecturers was Dr. Bravo. So Dr. Bravo would always crack the joke because I was a working and learning student. So he would be like, hey, this engineer from Mandela has now come to class. Did you actually answer this question? So whenever I'm in class, he's asking me, have you asked this question? And he has that same relationship with all these other individuals, which makes it very magical, right? Being in a place and your lecturer interacting on a personal level with you is one of the things that I love about the university. But to take it a step further, I think also the convenience that comes with learning. Because as we go on today, we realize that not all of us have the luxury of just studying, and that's it, right? You have students who are studying while working. So are these universities taking initiative to provide for such programs in the learning process? Cavendish does that. We have the distance learning, we have the mixed where you can do both a blended distance learning and physical learning, and then we have the physical learning. Again, for me, that was very important because I have to go to work, then I have to come to school. So having such ease in the learning process and being up to date with technology and enabling us to do that was also very important. And I think the final thing, which might be taken very lightly, is that, and I don't know, maybe this is just a Ugandan thing, but you go to other universities and students are crying about missing marks, lecturers refusing to give them their marks, lecturers not coming to class. That's a myth at Cavendish. And I'm not saying this to advertise, but it's a literal myth at Cavendish. And something that just gives you comfort knowing that you're going to go to class, the lecturer is going to be there, and you're always going to get your marks, right? Something very sensitive that I'll mention with that is that sometimes these issues stem from uncouth behaviors of the people who are teaching us, right? You find that the lecturers aren't giving certain students these things because either they want something from them, and we all know about this, I don't need to delve into that. But it's important that our university hasn't registered any such cases. It gives you the comfort, mostly for female students, to know that you're going to study in a safe space where it's mostly going to be about learning, and that's very important.
Okay.
Thank you so much. If it comes to system that we are using, I experienced that at Kepler, we used to have advisors. The things that I like in once per week, I meet with my advisors, and when I'm going to meet her, I feel like, oh, what achievement am I going to show? So for us, we use blended system, like blended learning system. So where we came in foundation and we are being trained to communication, like a language that you will be using in learning, like English, and technology, even some quantitative skills, so as we can sharpen our critics. So, and after the foundation program, we used to have safe pace, where students work on safe pace, not having like a lecturer there in front and giving you everything. So you have to be resourcefulness. So they give you materials and like directions, and they ask you, what should we do to solve this problem? As I said, in self-paced, we used to have different projects, like projects from English, projects from economics, projects from businesses. So we work on all of these projects, and in these projects is where we get to learn. We do have reviewers. So if you were working on projects, you work it, and when you're done, you submit. After 24 or like 48 hours, you get feedback. When they see that there is a gap in the skills that you are having, they give you feedback. Dear Pacific, you did a great job. However, you need to include this. So when they start encouraging us, like, you did a great job. So I feel like, oh, I have to sit and spend my 4 hours for what I can put there to make my work have quality. And when I submit it, I can also get not yet. And I sit for 2 hours correcting that not yet by feeling like, oh, if reviewer is asking me to include these, like for instance, I propose the solution of like recycling plastic waste into different materials like bags, sleeping bags, you see, it is a really good solution for the problem. But the reasons that I put there are not matching or are not convincing that the solution can be implemented. That's where I get not yet. Once also not yet come, I do apply them by sitting, oh, you see, to think. Then I think and I apply. At the second time also I get not yet. Also, I sit 2 hours and then apply feedback depending to directions that they are giving me. Then for the third time, I also get not yet. But that can't push me to give up. Just it's a way of learning. So the time I will get master to the project, it's where I get quality skills that I can go out and implement. So the experience that, again, the system that Kepler is using now is just to give me place and space to implement what I have. Like, to think deep, like to not giving me like, this is a solution. No, like me as student, what are the solutions that I'm suggesting? What are the solutions that I think like can help the whole world? You see, now, as I said, my interest is about environmental protections. When I was working on the project, I feel like, oh, I need to work on this project. Maybe if I get mastered, I will search for some connections, as I get connections here, that will help me to implement that project, because I got mastered on that project for uncountable not yet, like from 3 to 4 not yet, but finally I get mastered. So I think the experience that I gain is just critical thinking skills, from my experience. Thank you.
All right, so at Strathmore University, one very interesting thing is that we actually have a careers office. So they help students prepare for the job market, either by training you for interviews or even giving you job opportunities. Yes, we all have LinkedIn, but we don't open it. And we exaggerate on LinkedIn. Recently I got my driving school, but on LinkedIn you say motor vehicle manipulator, So it's a very good experience for us. So the careers office is one of those offices that deals with specifically fostering our employability. So the other thing that we also do differently there, and I think I'm impressed by it, is the fact that we have a couple of reviews. You get to review your course at the end of the semester. So you're constantly reviewing the lecturer. So you're reviewing the person who's giving you the skill. That's one step. Then take it a step further. You get to review the course at the end of your tenure. So in my 4th year, I can look at what I've learned in 1st year and say, I think this is something that helped me get better, and I think I could apply it in the job market. Take it a notch higher. What they do is they constantly have guest lectures. So what you do is you have actual practitioners in the field coming to teach classes. So I've been taught as a journalism student by some of the Kenyan journalists like Linus Kaikai and the likes. So they're always giving you continuous feedback of this is what you need to always do to improve. This is how the market is shifting. Other than that, the other thing they also try to do to implement continuously is career fairs. So you have students meeting corporates. So we all have companies here. So you set up tents in Strathmore University where you get to understand what each company does. You get to understand what they require. Then at the end of the day, on top of, you get to tune yourself to fit into that said company. So you get to gain experience as well preparing for this company through clubs. Because I tell people there's no way you're going to get 2 years experience on graduation with your first class honors degree. you have to get the degree, the experience elsewhere. So through running these clubs, you run events. So you run a number of events, you look for funding, you learn how to do community service, you do CSR. Those are things that you put in to help better yourself. And at the end of the day, what it does is it challenges you to be a holistic person, because all these things are going concurrently with your degree. It's not like your degree is on hold. Sometimes I wish my degree was on hold, but they are flowing at the exact same time. That you are not only in class, but the class is also outside the building. So, funny story to show that I've actually tried doing these things practically. In my first year of lining, I signed up for an advertising competition by EABL. I had no experience whatsoever. I've never created a poster, but because of the ability to just push yourself, see what happens, take risks, and I think that's something that I realize people do a lot in Strathmore. We take risks to see what happens. So I signed up for it only to find out that everyone in the room was 30 and I'm just 19. And what I learned there is something that was amazing, that everything that I had learned in class just between the first 2 semesters is actually what helped me get through. And the management of the clubs that I had run is actually the experience they wanted. Because when they say we want leadership skills, you don't graduate then become a leader. You become a leader as you're learning your degree. Then after you graduate, you now can say, I have leadership skills because I've run a certain club, I've attended a certain seminar. And that's one thing I think they do right. Also just challenging us, pushing us. You must do your internship at the 3rd or 4th year. They go to the extent of even advising you what you should do as an internship, as an intern of a certain field. So like myself was doing public relations. I was advised to go to an advertising firm or a PR practicing firm, but I opted to work in school. So the school itself offers job opportunities to us. So you can work and study. It's called work-study arrangement. So during the day, you are on class, in the evening you work, or vice versa. So what happens is you work as you're actually getting your degree. And I think that's a perfect balance to learning, because learning is not in the things you read on a textbook, it's in the things you do from the textbook you have read. So in reality, that's one of the best ways I think it's helped shape my career in future. Apart from giving me all these opportunities to attend a number of events, a number of seminars, I think that's the best.
Teddy, that's great. So I want to stay with you and come this way now. So earlier in the panel of partnership, I think it was Professor Murugandi, if I remember, he has a CCTV camera to follow students don't steal. That was amazing and shocking at the same time. So now I want to ask you, for me, maybe I'm teaching, like my experience has been teaching in masters and that level, students are limited, but teachers are expected to know their student, and actually they can give grade without examination. If you follow the students and you are doing continuous assessment, you are asking them a question, you don't need to give exam, actually. By the way, actually, when I did PhD, that's what happened to me in Finland. The teachers are really authorized so that they are trusted. They can just ask you a project, critical things. They ask you, you cannot pass that, by the way. It's one-on-one, checking like a product, like apple by apple, line by line. So I just want to ask you, your teachers, how many of them know your capacity in the courses they are teaching? How many of them do you think, like, roughly can say what is your grades are? So that we don't need that CC camera, because if I know that someone will not pass, no matter what, I will not accept. For example, for Ethiopian English, I read it and I know exactly what the English, then like, no, this is not your English. I just want to...
So I think all our teachers are always up to speed with everything we are doing. I think also it's because of the size of the classes that we have in Strathmore, the type of learning interactions, because it's always in lecture rooms. They always have a personal, there's a way you know all your students because we're not many. I think my teachers tend to know my capacity because of the things I've done. And I think also it goes beyond because, I mean, the Vice Chancellor actually remembers some of us by name, despite the fact we are 6,000. He'll see me in the hall, even from second year. Hi, Ted, how are you? I didn't know his name was Dr. Ogutu. Till I used to know there was a guy called Dr. Vincent something, but he remembered my name. So I think they make a personal decision to try and get to learn their students as much as they're trying to teach us. And another thing that they also try to do differently is you important is it allows us to also know where your weaknesses and strengths are. And Strathmore goes a little bit further because most of our lecturers are actually practitioners. So you find like Dr. Ogutu, yes, is seated here, is listening to us, is trying to take notes, then part-time he's running his business. So you find that at the end of the day, they are continuously up to speed. So there's no lapse. Majority of my lecturers for the journalism and humanities section are PR practitioners, all of them. So I think that's a good thing.
Congratulations to Strasmo. I think the title was coming from there. I remember Robert was the one who remembered the student more. And then, okay, that's great. That's really great to hear. Then we don't need the camera there. Okay, so Collins, what about Cavendish? Like, do the teacher know, like, roughly? If I ask the teacher, I come to the class and then ask the teacher, make a distribution of the grades without giving an exam. Do you think they can make?
I would like to believe that they can. Quite similar to TED, the numbers of students at Cavendish are like small, so they know all of us in most cases, right? And why that also becomes possible is because the learning modes are also very interactive. Like I said, we're constantly asked questions. So you'll do a couple of minutes, 30 minutes, run through something. Then the lecturer first pauses before you jump onto the next slide or module, depending on how it's distributed. Then you'll first ask a couple of questions. So through that engagement, they are able to, and yeah, I'd like to believe that they're able to in terms of capacity.
Thank you. Pacific, what do you think at Kepler in Kiss Camp, our campus? So what do you think?
Yeah, thank you so much. On my side, I think they can't do that too. So they can't give you grades without knowing what have you done. So for us, as I said, we used to have safe base. So currently I'm working on Associate of Science in Fundamental in Business. And I used to work on projects, and we are having different reviewers in different places. Some are in Kenya, maybe other in the United States. So we do have different reviewers. So they tend to know our capacity, like our capacity depends on the project that you are getting and the master that you are getting of the content that you are learning. So apart from that, we used to have in-class modules like design think. Currently, I'm working on design thinking modules. So my facilitator can't give me a credit without the quality work that I show up. So at the end of the module, we used to have assessment. So in that assessment, it is where a facilitator is going to see Pacific, what quality of skills Pacific is showing. Is Pacific like mastering the content that supposed to have like in design thinking model. So with that assessment we did after like the end of the model, it's where the facilitator or lecturer knows that this student had quality skills, had the skills that design thinking model convey to teach. So that's how our lecturer gave us know the capacity of students.
Now we are going to the third question. That is entrepreneurship. So there again, Lydia was challenging one for us as an institution. What is the pipeline that institutions have to support those innovations by teachers and students to go to the, to develop the business more? But there is also one thing that we have been asking ourselves in institution. How can we best teach students this kind of skill for self-employment? Instead of becoming like a job seeker, they can be creating their own jobs. So what are the things like that practically happening for you in terms of all these modules, all these courses, all this advising that you are getting that helps you to create self-employment?
So thank you so much. Thank you for a good question. As I said, for Kepler, they used just to give us the space to work, like working on project. So I do think the institutions might work hand in hand with students. Like we are here, I get chance to meet with different doctors, professors, and I get connection with them. So many institutions might think how many times doctor or professors or lecturers who have experience, who knows more about labor market are interacting with students. How many are they meet with students per month or per week? So in terms of interaction with students, with these professors, it's where they can get advice or in careers. So maybe now, if I'm thinking that I want just to be a self-entrepreneur, I just need to be a businesswoman in my future. But as here now, I might say, oh, I just need to be Professor Pacific, yes? And also I need to make more money. But from that thinking, for myself, I might make the wrong, like, I can say it's a wrong choice, but I can make like the choice that is not going to, like, to help me to get on reach or to get on my goal. So the institution might think about like how many how many students are interacting with people who are going to help them to think deeply, like to choose what is going to work. Because all of us, we are not interested for working in any organization, we can't even get the chance to have all of us to have jobs. Like Dr. Minister yesterday was saying about many graduates who are going out. So these graduates are not going to get employment at the same time. And you can see the graduate is just having 2 years searching for job. Like he applied, and after 1 month or 2 months, he get an email, congratulations. We are sorry to tell you that we rejected your application because of this and this. So you see, it's just big, difficult thing for graduates to get job. So moving to the point that I want just to highlight, I just want to say that institution might help students when they are in advising in careers to help them to choose. Like for me now, I have 2 possibilities. I need to be professor, and I need to make money. I need to be a businesswoman. If I choose to go in the way of being professor, you see, I can't meet with business and studies. I will need just to sacrifice one of my career, you see. But the time I will meet with someone who is going to help me to choose, like to help me to connect these things and work them together, it is going to help me as a student in my future. I may work to both, or I can be advised the way I can do that. I had been saying about recycling. I do like to protect the environment. So if I did this, I had a conversation with Professor Ogutu. Yeah, he told me that to be a professor is not an easy thing. I said, now I'm 20 years old, and I need to be professor. How many years it requires me to be professor and I get money? You know what he told me? He told me that you are 20 years old. If you choose the way to be professor, and because I shared with him that, oh, I need to be called Professor Pacific. It can sound good, but also I need to impact my society. I need to impact my community. And I asked him, so how am I going to impact my community by giving, I said I'm coming from Kiziwakem. So we are facing the problem of unemployment there because all of us, we don't have chance to attend university. But as me, who attended university, how am I going to impact these youth who are not attending? And I asked him, so if I'm going to move to professor, I will get 8 years and 9. I will be 29. When am I going to start my business? I will be old. You see? Just we need you. We need your experience to help us to choose what is better and to help us just to make sure what we want, the way we can reach there. Most of students, they used to think that, oh, I'm studying now, I'm getting skills, and I'm going just, I will be an officer, I will be sitting in an office, and that can't happen. So the recommendation that I can give the universities is just to give students a chance to meet with people who had experience before, to help students then what the needs they want. And a second recommendation is that how many students, institution, if we are teaching students to have communication skills, what institution might give students to think about how communication can be connected with real life. Because if we are getting skills, we do think that we apply these skills in professional field, like at job, but also these skills might be applied in community that we are coming from. Like if I'm learning critical thinking skills from the project that I'm working on, how the critical thinking skills is going to be applied in a real life situation. So another recommendation is about quality of the skills that we are getting. Like institution might think about the skills that they are serving students. If the skills are going to help students in past 30 years. In the past, many people wasn't think about the position of social media officer. They think that, oh, now the person who has handwriting, good handwriting, is the first person on to write on or to sign on the document, but now it's not. You see, just we need the skills that will help us in future 30 years to be able to adapt ourselves at labor market. If now I'm learning critical thinking skills, if the new job that will come in 30 years, am I going to adapt myself, or I will directly get retirement? or being quiet from the job because my skills have been expired. So also institutions need to think about that. Thank you.
Interestingly, and I'll actually just ask before I start. This is something that I'm quite passionate about, employment and entrepreneurship. So I might, if I do exceed, just let me know. But I am a founder of a startup called WAPI. And what WAPI does is we connect people with digital skills to work within startups. So entrepreneurship is at heart. What I think universities should do, and you'll notice while this was going on, I was writing down, because again, this is something very dear. My university, when I started my startup with my co-founder, who is also a student, when we started this out, what they did for us was something I found very inspiring and very nice. They went out, reached out to a bunch of publications, told them about what we're doing, told them that WAPI is doing this and that was an entry to a bunch of opportunities. So sometimes it's not about giving money, sometimes it's not about all these things. It's those simple acts. That PR publication was amazing. It got us into different places. So that's area one, that I think universities could do good in terms of entrepreneurship. The second is the Ashesi model that I had about. Lovely model. Give the students $50, go tell them to try out things, fail, and learn. The best thing you'll get from that is that you've tried this business, you've known that this is going to work, this isn't going to work, and then the next time you're doing something with more money, you're bound to succeed. Because the best way to learn not to fail is by failing fast, right? So I think that's a wonderful way of doing it. Maybe $50 could be increased to something better, but it's still something, right? And I think it's an amazing thing that Ashesi is doing. The third thing is industry partnerships with people who are in this area. We have the gentleman from IBM. We have Google. We have Strathmore doing a bunch of these things. Hat off to you. I think schools can learn from this. Instead of reinventing the wheel, why not partner with people who are already doing this, right? We can only do so much. And in startups, you realize that they'll tell you, focus on one thing and do that one thing so well. So schools are amazing at education. Can we then partner with innovation hubs that are amazing at spiking and incentivizing innovation, right? Rather than reinventing the wheel. So that there is a harnessed way of building this. The next one would be also sometimes maybe setting up those innovation hubs. Cavendish is trying to set up one. I know Strathmore also has one, and I know some of these universities have one. Because it gives these students the confidence to actually go and try this because they know there's a space where I can sandbox. There's a space where I can try this and actually have the capacity. I think I'm running out of time, so I'll try to run through. Then the other, which I love, and by the way, I don't know if there's anyone from ALU here, but from what I've heard is that ALU students are then sent to Silicon Valley to learn from what I would call the tech haven, right? And this is something amazing because tech that's driving the world is born within Silicon Valley. So can we get our students to be at the heart of these places? In Kenya, we have is it the Silicon Savannah? I'm not sure, but the heart of tech. Are we getting students to interact with these individuals so that they learn about entrepreneurship? Because while we talked about earlier about small businesses, one startup can employ 10,000 people. One business cannot necessarily do that. So these tech startups are the future of employment. And earlier we talked about how 12 million jobs need to be created within a year. That figure is actually 18 million jobs. So it's that bad. 18 million jobs need to be created a year within the next 30 years for us to actually avoid the chaos that comes for employment. With, and I'm sorry again, 220 million youth in Africa, either unemployed or underemployed. Why is this important, again, when it comes to entrepreneurship, is while us were sending students out, it's not about just getting work. It's about the quality of work that they get. If I am earning $3 a day versus someone who is earning $100 a day, there's a huge distinction. The only way we can develop as a community and as a whole is if we have more of those people earning meaningfully. And just to wrap this up, the other thing that I think would also be really important, and I love the fact that Pacific has mentioned this, is real-life sessions through this. and trying the model of VCs, right? So what I think institutions should also do is we invite doctors, we invite architects, we invite engineers, we invite all these folks to come to universities. When do you invite founders? When do you invite entrepreneurs? Yet this is the future. These are the people who are going to be creating the jobs. So it creates a risk, and I know this could be maybe the possible reason, right? Because there's the idea that most entrepreneurs want to drop out, Mark Zuckerberg and all these others. But I ask you to take that risk, right? Think like the VCs. Have the 1,000 students. If let's say 2 or 3 of those students maybe drop out, let them employ the rest of these other 9,000 because of that one guest lecture that you had. If the VCs can do it, then the universities can do it too. But above all, let's support local businesses within our institutions. Thank you.
So I think one thing we have going for us is that we have incubation hubs. We have one called iLab, so it's one run in Strathmore, and it deals mostly with tech, so food technology, service providers, and so on and so forth. If you have any idea, they help you literally bring it to fruition. We also have a very interesting club called the Strathmore Business Club. So its role is literally to help you grow your entrepreneurship skills. And what that does is very iconic. So you learn how to run your business by actually running a business. So we normally have monthly flea markets. So learn how to sell, learn how to get consumers, learn how to assess your market and know what good sells. And we do that every month with the intent of getting the exposure that students need to what it would be like to sell a product. We also have the marketing club, who's, as the name so sells it out, markets the businesses. And what that does is these two clubs are there for one reason, to help you understand what exactly the goal is. Now, inside the business club, there's a very interesting space called StrathCube. So it's a student-run incubator. And what it does is it helps you formulate your business and your product and, have your ideas. And we do look, and they also try to help students get funding. So for me, my problem would be money, unlike colleagues, to enable people to get these things done as easy as possible. We also have the Center for Innovation and Patency. We have CPIT, so you can actually patent an idea in Strathmore, meaning that you can get a patent license and that license becomes yours for life. Then you have seminars and webinars that happen ever so frequently. And now I want to introduce the idea of networking dinners, that now we get to meet corporates one-on-one as students, and get to understand what exactly is happening in the business space. So that does two things. I'm not just inviting corporates, I'm also inviting SMEs. So I realize that there's the need for students to just learn what it will be like to be in the business sector. And what I normally tell people is the best kind of business are businesses that provide solutions. The richest people in the world currently are those who provide private solutions to public problems. Bill Gates invented Microsoft. The main problem that was there was communicating with one another efficiently and keeping records. Every innovation that has become a billion-dollar innovation is something that provides a private solution to a public issue. So if you can do that so well. For me personally, after running the club, I think it's become a very interesting experience. So for some of us, running our events could cost up to $5,000 for one event. And I have to look for let's say $400,000, because when I give the budget to the school will tell me there are 31 other clubs, so we'll support to this extent, but the rest of the money you have to look for. So unfortunately, I run break-even tournaments, and at the end of the day, I'm tired. I just want to black out for another week or so by the end of it. But the good thing is you learn very valuable skills, because by running one tournament, I've learned how to mobilize people. The last one I had at 850 people across East Africa. Then you learn how to negotiate, because getting this money is not easy. So if anyone is feeling generous, please, my number will be displayed later. I'm kidding. But also lastly, you learn that it's the cause that matters. For me now, personally, I feel like I would want to get into employment, and I do want to get into employment. So if you know anyone looking for a communications person, I am right here. But it also does another thing because it gives me an innovative idea. What I do is train public speakers and debaters. So all the people I'm training right now are high schoolers and university students. So with 70 high schools currently within my reach, I'm able to reach out to probably 1,000 people roughly, yeah. It takes it gives me no satisfaction to earn money because the cause is more important. So what happens is you go to these high schools, you train people, you give knowledge. This is something that I started as a CSR project, then ended up becoming something I would turn into a career. So you're giving people knowledge, and all you're getting in return is just the satisfaction of growing the next generation of leaders. So what you do is you take that same mindset and become an entrepreneur. So right now I'm opening an academy to try and train more and more people, but now for money, because I realize I can't feed myself on satisfaction. So now that enables me to do exactly what I was doing in school, but outside of school. So what that does is the 850 participants now will pay a participation fee because this is a skill that I'm imparting someone else, and we get to host all of them at Strathmore University. So the school has given me the idea, so I never have a problem with venues. They always sort that out for me. So now it's just a matter of now making these skills grow onto one another. So my solution to that is create the hubs, create the clubs, and create the spaces for students to take over.
Since we lost half an hour earlier, we are going to we lived 15 minutes, but take 15. So it will go up to quarter past. So I will add just two things, and then I will bring back to you to ask the students on their reflection. I think I want to comment on one of the critical questions Lydia asked us that we didn't answer. Those two young innovators who developed this system for healthcare, and they are young, so the market is not really trusting and getting them in. So what we can do as an institution. So I want to share with you a practical experience we did with a big university that I was part of. So first of all, exactly the same story happened to me when I was there. So two young staff, very young staff, came with a solution. Bahar Dar University has a history of 60 years. So we can go back in time and automate everything. Not only that, but your academic progression, your student character, everything can be automatized with SIS. We can develop this for free. But you need to help us to market this afterwards. But for that development, you have to pay for it. Only for the development. So what I am trying to say, we developed it, we automate our university, and then we go on television and say, all of Ethiopian, if you want to see your kids' progress, you can see online, everything is there, but the kids need to agree to give you the password. So that creates a shock within other institutions. So everyone comes to buy it. The university become a guarantor of that product, taking only 10%, but these two young developer, me as a president was a marketer, we only take 10%. Right now, 21 university in Ethiopia uses this system. $10 million created. And still, the university, even my successor, adopted that idea, and we are actually negotiating now to outsource it to Sudan. So for example, if you need SIS in any language, automatic, academic progression, automatically linked to Moodle, which is free, learning management system, we have the technology. So now, why I'm bringing this? I think that one point I want to say in that linkage is that we, the institution, should, like if I share with Patrick, going to a customer and say, I have a product like this, and then two young students going from a chassis and saying, I have a product, this is different conversation. That is one thing I want to transfer. But to Patrick to have that confidence, for me to have that confidence, I have to be the first customer. So for me, I want to challenge all of us. What HR system are we using? The future is systems and platforms. These are a lot of cost is going there. What kind of financial software are we using? Where do we fight? Can we develop it locally and then we can buy each other from each other? I think that linkage, for example, for that two young people, I don't know, Professor Murugandi, I don't know if you have a hospital. If there is a university, a public university that has hospital or something, the first thing is to use it. And then can they really show it saves cost? Put that number. And then I tell you, customer will follow. So that is a bridge I want to comment. And then the other comment I want to make, I think I'm a little bit concerned about this shelf life of knowledge. I think that it is becoming a challenge in a higher education institution now. Young people think like, mathematics, you don't need to remember because Siri can answer. And then all this knowledge of basic science, you don't need to remember. I think that the basic knowledge, science, mathematics, really is more or less it is the same, actually, you can say. The revolution is, mathematics is essentially developing further, but those basic mathematics are the same. So I think that when we say shelf life, it is the approach of these fundamental sciences, how we teach a student, how we approach it, or how we use it, is evolving. Like the target is evolving. So I want us to be a little bit, I don't know, in the messaging, maybe we can help each other how to really make sure that the student don't refuse to learn mathematics and these hard sciences, thinking that this is actually not anymore useful because Siri can tell you anyway. So now with that remark, I want to the audience to ask questions to our students. Please. David.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much, students, for the good discussion. Mine is about how do students get the courage and free move to the career guidance. Because when we started the career guidance office at our college, the primary idea was to go close to students and follow them up and, find out what they need. But it's kind of, they are shying away. They are shying away. They don't freely go to the office. I liked the comment from one of the presenters in the morning when he said that one of the things I hated in school was administration block. Now, I was telling the director of career guidance one time that instead of you going looking for students running everywhere, I will reallocate you to the classroom block and you leave the administration block because we want you to be close to the students. Now I'm trying to ask Teddy, what motivates you with your fellow students to freely go to the career guidance to seek that advice? Number two, we have had the problem of social media, the handsets, the phones. One time when I was moving around the class, I realized that around 20% of the students were busy on their phones. Then I was curious to find out what they were doing with their phones. One was watching a movie, the other one was chatting. Then I was asking this lecturer, do you realize that you are talking to yourself? And he was very busy, explaining. Do you realize that you are talking to yourself? Now, there was a very interesting question Professor Bailey posed. Are these lecturers really following students? Do they know them by character, by name, by no? So we need to also look on the other side, the double side. What about the lecturers? When we are talking about character building, the ethics, the values, what about our facilitators? Do they have exactly what they need to give the students? So share with us your experience about the use of the phones, especially the social media, and also that freedom of freely going to the career guidance, and also we borrow your experience. Thank you very much.
Do you want to take it?
Yes. That's a wonderful question. So how do we do it? The truth of the matter is you can't force everyone to take everything, yeah? So what you do is how you brand it. So our career services does not make itself look like a mandatory, thing for you to do. It's something that's there out of volition. And the truth of the matter is, those of us who come from Kenya will tell you that our job market is extremely competitive. And even within Strathmore, there's competition for Strathmore students in the job market. So those who want to excel are the ones who go there. But they go a step further. So you set up tents, let students come see, this is the careers office, this is what we do, this is what we're trying to do. Because again, if you make it feel like it's something that people should do out of, circumstance instead of out of choice, then it becomes something that's burdensome. So even for clubs, it's voluntary. No one forces us. Careers office voluntary. If you want to sign up to be an alumni that continuously touches base with the school, voluntary. But at the end of the day, what benefits do you get? So I think it's a matter of also just letting the students not see it as something that is coming to force them. It's a matter of trying to enable students see the need in it. And I'll tell people this story every day. All of us drink Coca-Cola while we know it's bad for our health. But at the end of the day, it tastes good, yeah? So the same way, you need to get employment. You know that if you don't go to careers office, it will be a problem. But you also know that if you go there, you'll get the added benefits of getting your CV reviewed, you'll get this interview process understood better. And I think just not formalizing it is the best way, and also you can't force everyone. Our theme this year is freedom and responsibility. So with the freedom you have, you're responsible for your actions. And secondly, even on phones, I think that's the second thing. Phones are a double-edged sword, and that's something that people need to understand. For me, my phone is like an office. I do everything on my phone. I text people, I call, I develop speeches there, I write everything, I review people's CVs for money there as well. So that's one end. On the other side, it can also be a distraction. It's a matter of now the students seeing. For us, we have a policy that your phone must be off during class, and it forces you to listen to the lecturer. Even if you zone out and start playing with a pen, you'll still get something because you're not focused on, your phone. So I think that's one other way, because sometimes, I'll be honest, students do give people a difficult time, and we're aware. Personally, as someone who is now leading students, I am aware of the problems staff face. So it's also to take it a step further and make it a policy that don't use your phone in class or turn it off. For us, even during exams, they'll take it. If you're caught with your phone, it rings, and you're in the exam hall, it's taken, they'll give it at their earliest convenience. So you can come for it between the period of 24 hours to 365 days, depending on how much of a nuisance it was to everyone else. So sometimes it also just needs some foot being put down. Yeah.
My name is Oase. I'm a Global Challenges student at ALU. Just to answer your question as a student too, at ALU, one thing that I have realized that maybe is different is that the students own the education. So lecturers don't come to class and give out the lesson. By the time actually that we have class, the students have read the material and we're just discussing the material. So that is one tool to use to make the students own the education. That could really help in interaction. Or you could be like my dear facilitator, Mr. Kwame, and tell the students that you don't want to see any phone or any laptop on the table. And if there is an appearance of a phone or a laptop on the table, that it will be confiscated. And then second, to the students, I heard a lot of character development happened mostly out of class. So I heard a lot of clubs, I heard a lot of hubs and all that. My challenge is to enter or introduce it into class. So if, again, you're familiar, I'm not trying to sell ALU, but if you're familiar with ALU's education system, you know about the missions. So missions are basically every student has to have a solution they're introducing to their community, and your education is centered around that. So if students basically from the moment you enter ALU, you are developing your solution. It changes like a million times, but all the knowledge that you are getting is essentially being integrated in your solution. Like for example, at the end of last year, for one course, we worked with, each group had a company they worked with and did research for. That was for our research symposium class. That is a way in which you enter real world situations into the classroom without it necessarily being about developing the skills outside of class. Like for example, I don't even know who the leader of my debate club is, to be honest. I know who the leader of Student Representative Council is, but because the students themselves are familiarized with these skills and are familiarized with character development in the class, they don't go outside of class to develop the skills. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. And also, we talked...
Time?
Yes, a little
so
bit.
would you please make it short?
Yes.
We have only 2 minutes. This 15 minutes was added with a lot of negotiation. Thank you.
Yes, just lastly, I didn't hear a lot about ethical leadership, which is something that is very important even in our classes. How do you... there's something called creating shared values. So how do you create shared values with your... with the entrepreneurship, within the entrepreneurship space, and what the communities are facing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quickly. Oh, I'll give you a chance.
Can she finish? Can she finish, please? Okay, please, Jasmine.
So very, very quickly. First of all, thank you to all of our student panelists. You're brilliant. Rose was sitting next to me here and said, Yasmin, if we were applying against these students when we were coming up to school, we wouldn't have made the cut. So hats off to you. But very quickly, I was going to ask, Pacifique said she can't wait 9 years to be professor, so I'm going to fast track this for you. I'm going to make you all presidents of your institutions right now. If you were president of your institutions right now, based on the most pressing issues that you're seeing students face, what is the one initiative, one new initiative, or one thing you would change about your current institution?
Quick question to Ted. What's your student population in your university? 600? 6,000. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So how often did you meet your mentor, let's say in a period? Twice a month, roughly. I'm just saying this because sometimes we are unable to really implement that kind of one-on-one mentorship with large population or large student population with a staff ratio. And it often comes very cumbersome, and I combine it with how you do it at Kepler. You know, you practically implement the competence-based training, and which is train a student until he's competent. So he tries to do that, but it's very difficult because we are a technically oriented institution. And if he's in a workshop, or a student is in a workshop or in a lab, and you make sure that, you know, he's competent to produce something or something. So you imagine the time it requires. And the, and the student, you know, normally the guideline is 25 students per in a workshop, but we get to 50 students. So because of the demand. So we get like over 10,000 applications every year, but we are only able to accommodate 3,800. But those 10,000, they are eligible, right? So this is a challenge we have, and this is why this platform is very useful to see what's the best practices, innovative ways of making sure students get, you know, the learning environment that they require. Thank you.
So 1 minute and we can.
So for that, we actually do have a mass sort of mentoring system. It's called the Maisha program. So it's done in two faculties, the business school and the law school. So we try and train people on how to deal with certain ethical dilemmas, certain problems whatsoever that may come across your way. So we do put some of it in class, and also in terms of employability, I just remembered Strathmore makes students take an extra language. So Spanish, French, German is Japanese and Chinese, 5 languages offered that anyone can do at the end of the day. Also, the question that she asked, if I was president, I am president, so of the entire student body. At the top, yeah. Anyways, so just simple. I think institutionalization of mental health questions, because as much as we hate to admit it, it's a real dilemma. So for me personally, I feel like mental health awareness is something that needs to be done a bit more. So through maybe increasing psychologists, so doing something like that, teaching people about the illnesses and the challenges is one thing I would do. Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. Just one question. Address one question.
Thank you so much. I also need to answer the question of if I'm at the top, what I can do is just to take my time and understand what students need. Thank you.
All right, I'll answer her question and then I'll just hint at that, if that's okay. Yeah, so you around ethical leadership. I think this is different for different institutions, but at the core of it, it's figuring out a way of involving it in each and every activity. For startups or businesses, that can be, so let's say we're starting a meeting, what do we stand for? Let's say revolutionizing careers and jobs. Say that. What are your values? Always hinting at those through these various interactions. But also really just having those core values is important. Then what I would change about my institution, but I would say this across all institutions, is I would figure out a way of creating a student VC fund for Africa, because we need something like that.
Has been great. So for me, I will just say 2 things. One, you know, the regulator, Dr. Theonest, despite his busy schedule, he came to listen to students. So I think that it takes a lot from leadership, how you get attention. Congratulations. And second, maybe also while you are here, we have been discussing about regulations. There are different models. I think one model that we didn't discuss is that in Ethiopia, universities are fully authorized to approve academic program by themselves.